Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chakras and Cuss Words podcast. I am your host, Catherine, and today I have a special guest, Miss Vanessa, who is an intuitive spiritual healer, and she is here to talk to us about human design and really her healing journey kind of as a whole. So I'm excited to have her here. Vanessa, please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Thank you so much. By the way, Catherine, thank you for having me on. I know you and I have been connected through Clubhouse and Instagram. It's just been nice to stay connected and finally be on here to have this chat with you today. So yeah, I am an intuitive healer, and I went into a deep healing journey within my own life for years. I mean, 5 or 6 years, I felt like I was just recovering from my 20s. So, and from childhood, right? There was a lot of recovery happening. And so that's what inspired me over time to transition out of the different careers that I had over time and just transition into the energy workspace, into healing. Human design has become a huge part of my personal healing journey and how I also help others understand themselves, self-discovery, self-awareness, and especially when we're dealing with our childhood experiences and past traumas or past experiences, human design can also offer new perspectives. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm all about healing. Human design is just another tool that I use in conjunction with other modalities. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I love that. When I was reading your bio and you put, because I remember when I first saw you on Clubhouse, you were really talking about the ice baths, and you were like,
yes,
it was like watching your Instagram, you're like jumping in this ice bath. And I was like, oh girl, it looks cold in there. And I was like,
yeah.
oh my, but I didn't really know like your whole story. And then when I read your bio and you're like, I was a stripper, I went to a healing area and really kind of opened up that element of myself. How did that like transition take forward? How did you get in that?
Yeah. Thank you. It's such a powerful part of my journey now, right? Now that I'm on the other end of it, I appreciate it. It's inspiring to other people. It gives meaning to my life. There was lots of challenges, working in the stripping industry at gentlemen's clubs. And I did it for a long period of time. I did it for 10 years. I mean, yes, I put myself through school. So, I was somewhat productive, but then I was also partying pretty hard too. There was a lot that was happening. But I realized that I was really living out a trauma response during those 10 years. One of them being giving away my power. And if most of us know about the 4 different trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So yes, I had some of the other ones as well, but the fawn response is really what I was living out. And that's all about passiveness, people pleasing, portraying an image, so that you could be validated. So I think I was I was stripping to pay for school to keep my parents happy because they wanted me to get degrees. And it was like this vicious cycle of just me not doing me and me trying to get the things that I thought that I needed to survive, like love and validation. And then also just, I was suppressing a lot of the things that had happened earlier in my childhood that I was not knowledgeable of. It was like suppressed and repressed memories. And towards the end of I'm going to call it my stripping career. It sounds funny.
I mean, it was a part of your life path. And I have a lot.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of friends I had one friend in nursing school who she was a stripper, and basically that's how she got, to nursing school. That's what she did on the side, and then she became a nurse. But I don't know if she became, but I had, we were friends during our prereqs and stuff, and that was her journey. But it's like that's a part of you, and you transitioned. So
yeah, and the transition out. And I will say, not everyone who does that kind of work is living out a trauma response like I was. It's not disempowering for all women. And I'm not here to glorify it either. So I'm not saying, you know, go out and dance and to pay your bills. You know, it's, there's a lot there, but for me, I did it so long. So there was a point where it was not healthy for me mentally, emotionally, or physically. I'll just say that with confidence. And with your friend or the person that you know, it can provide opportunities. When I was 19 and I got into the business, I did it out of necessity, or at least I thought that was the best way for me to get money. And I needed a car. So I bought my first car in like $3,000 cash because I had that job. But going back to the story, or the summary, if you will, when I was exiting that industry, because I started to get this nudge, like I started to really just feel so unfulfilled. And I mean, by that time I had finished all my schooling. I had tried the 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, I was well qualified to go do other things. I was just kind of stuck in that lifestyle. And also just the mentality. There's a mentality that kind of happens, especially the dark feminine, the manipulation, and just, you know, there's a lot there energetically, but coming out of it, somehow, some way, my intuition led me to this resort in Costa Rica that did plant medicine. I did not know what it was. I didn't research it. I didn't Google it. I just followed my intuition to this resort. And ayahuasca, if your listeners are familiar with ayahuasca, I did it on my 30th birthday. And that was the thing that really was a turning point in my journey. Because during that week of ayahuasca, you know, I was there at that retreat for 7 days. And I think I did it 5 days in a row. It was like 30 years of therapy, literally, because I was turning 30. It was like the night of my 30th birthday. I was like, wow, this can't be more symbolic. And, but that's when a lot of those childhood memories, the repressed memories, the suppressions, it all started to come up. But I was so held. I was so supported by Mother Nature. I was so supported by that medicine. And I'm so grateful till this day that it happened in that way, because talk therapy, I'm not downing talk therapy or anyone who is a therapist, but I just felt like maybe it was a limiting belief. I just felt like it wasn't going to work for me. So I thought I couldn't heal, Catherine. I was one of those people, and I thought, man, my life is so messed up. I can't heal from anything. And I kind of was carrying that thought around subconsciously, but plant medicine gave me a different path. And those 30 years of therapy that I felt like I went through, during that 1 week, I came home and I was a different person. And luckily I already had some things lined up to where I had already had my real estate license. I think I just wasn't practicing that much because I was so, mentally stuck in that old industry, working at the gentleman's club, and just kind of addicted to that lifestyle, the fast money. But then I would spend it really fast because it was dirty money. So there was all kinds of things that needed to be healed there. But when I got back, it was almost like my brain was rewired, completely rewired. And that was the beginning of my I had done some healing stuff before, but the deep process of my healing and my commitment to myself, like really like promising myself, like, okay, we're just going to take one baby step at a time every day. And if one day seems like that's too big to handle, 1 hour at a time, we're going to do this 1 hour at a time and just walk forward. And that's exactly what I did for 5 or 6 years. And there were so many opportunities that came my way. I had so many people helping me. I had a shaman I was working with for a while. I had other healers, other intuitive healers, kinesiologists. I had so many different people helping me. Like, they were part of my healing team, and I did other plant medicine retreats and coaching programs. And so, eventually I was like, wow, this has changed my life for the better. And I love this work. I became so passionate about my own healing. And then here I am today as an intuitive healer. And it's because I again, like I said, I was that person that thought I could not heal. Right. And it just took some creative processes, some alternative methods, some different modalities. I had to work with one trauma in particular, Catherine. I had to work with that one trauma several different times, but with different modalities. So it was almost like getting different angles, with that one trauma. And some people think like, oh yeah, I already worked on that trauma. And I'm like, oh yeah, from one angle. You worked on it from one angle.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's multiple. So hopefully that answers that.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up. I remember I saw one of your reels and you're like, I can't just give myself one label. You were like, I'm like multi-dimensional, multifaceted. And I was like, yes, I totally get it, because it's like so hard to just be like in one section, especially when you are doing the trauma work and you are doing the releasing and helping others, because something that maybe worked for someone isn't necessarily going to work for the other. And as a intuitive healer, having those different angles and aspects really helps you help them. So I love that you really are centered in that area. And I want to know so when you were on your healing journey and you were learning and then helping others and coming on this way, and then you got centered with human design. And I'm going to tell you, I barely know. I just know of human design and that there's 4 or 3. I don't even know. I'll be honest. I don't. And I know there's like some astrology tied in there, but
there is. You would love that part.
Yeah. So explain to me, what is human design and how do you use it?
Amazing. Yes. And I'll just say, just to kind of connect something that you said a moment ago, you were referencing a post I did on Instagram where I'm like, I'm not going to box myself in. That's the manifesting generator in me. And the manifesting generators, you know who you are if you know your type. And it is hard to focus on one thing. And it's also hard to just do one thing because we could have multiple interests. So yes, human design. I found it I'll say that I found it again, I talk about this deep healing process that I was going through from the initiation of the ayahuasca until I'm still on a healing journey, right? It never really ends. There's no destination, but I'll say that, when I got through the thick of it, I discovered human design, and I'm so glad I did, because I did feel like I was missing something in my healing journey. The plant medicines were powerful. Working with the shaman was powerful. All, the retreats and the meditations and the Kundalini yoga, all that stuff was very, very powerful. But I still felt like how can I say this? There was still a little bit of a disconnection from myself. Not that I was disassociating, because I was in the process of healing that part of myself. There was just some things that I really wanted to bring up to my conscious mind. I really wanted to know the depths of my psyche. And so human design, when I first got a reading, honestly, it didn't really resonate, although I had heard about it on other podcasts and some of my friends had recommended it. And then I just ended up diving in like deep one day. And I was like, oh my God, this is so powerful from a healing perspective. It didn't really resonate for me at first, because, some of those basic readings that people can get, it's just kind of like, oh, you're a manifester, and not to undermine it, because it could still be powerful on how to make day-to-day decisions. But the approach I take, and I tell people this all the time when they want to get readings from me, I give them a warning, like, especially if they're doing a mentorship. I'm like, look, my stuff goes deep, because we're working, eventually we want to work with the shadow aspects. We want to work with the conditioned mind and go deep into the deeper layers. So what is human design? Human design is an energetic blueprint of our energy and who we were born to be when we got into this world, and who we are authentically. How does our energy work? How do we best operate in the world? How does the world receive us? How do other people see us? How do they receive us? Mm-hmm. And how can we interact with the world with less resistance? That's key. With less resistance, because a lot of times people will say, they want to test out, they'll play devil's advocate with, there's a type and then there's a strategy. So for a generator, that's one of the 4 or 5 types. Their strategy is to respond. And so people will be like, well, I was taught to initiate, and I'm going to keep initiating because it's just what I do, and it's a part of my profession. And it's like, okay, cool. But, and it's not like someone can't be successful, but the key here is to make your life more graceful, more effortless. Again, we want someone to have this knowledge and new perspective so that they're meeting less resistance. When I was initiating, after being a stripper, I went into real estate, and that's kind of the profession that was in between the middle of me becoming a healer and the stripping industry. As a realtor, I was initiating a lot, and I had a lot of success. And so I understand that I'm a manifesting generator. So I also need to respond first, even though I do have some similarities with the manifestors who can initiate naturally. But still, I burned myself out, and I met a lot of frustration in my life. It doesn't mean that I wasn't successful, because I was, but it was taking a toll on my health, and there were some consequences there. So with this knowledge, when we talk to someone about their type, and this is a system that's based off of their birth date, their birth time, and their birth location. When we plug that information in and we start with the basics, which is, there's 4 or 5 types, depending on how you look at it. I'll just say 5. The more modern ways to say 5 human design types. So there's a manifestor, a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, and a reflector. And so when we talk to someone about their type, each type has a strategy on how they could best interact with the world, how they can make decisions without regretting your decisions, without, being like not sure, or kind of feeling like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should take that job, or is this job right for me? Like, there's a system, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a system. Right. If this resonates with you, not everyone resonates with human design, and that's okay. It's not wrong. All right. But there's a system on how to do this. And then there's another layer that's one layer deeper. It's all about your authority. That's another way to implement a way on how to make decisions. So hopefully that gives you like a foundational perspective on what human design is.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I feel like a lot of people, when I started kind of hearing about human design, like they use it towards their business and also towards healing as well. So it has that dynamic kind of close to like astrology. You're saying like you get your design chart. It's kind of like your birth chart, and you read the areas that really help you with your life and your pathways. So that's pretty cool. How have you been using design? Do you use human design with your clients a lot, or is it more a combination of things?
Yes, I do. I offer it separately, and then I offer it as I integrate it with other, intuitive healing processes or modalities that I have. Yeah. It all depends on what someone is wanting and how deep they're really wanting to go. Some people just want to dabble in to see what this is about, and that's totally okay. And then other people are like, look, I don't care how I get to point A to point B, but this is where I'm at, and this is where I want to be. And I'm like, okay, this is where we need to so to speak, tackle all different angles, and we'll include, all different kinds of energy work that I do as an intuitive healer. Plus we'll use the human design. What's really important whenever I'm using it, and this is the difference between we know the traditional chakra system, right? There's 7 chakras, and in human design, there's 9. And the heart chakra is split into 2. So at the G center and I wish I had a visual for you, but I thought about it earlier. Anyway, so the G center and the will center are the heart center that's split into 2. And then the solar plexus is the emotional solar plexus in human design, and the spleen center that are split into 2. So and each center has a different theme, and those are really, really important when we're talking about someone's conditioning in their life, and we're helping them decondition and get in touch with who they are, because that's what healing is really about, right? I like to say healing is also integrating and evolving. Some people think of it, they get a little triggered because they're like, you're always talking about healing, but I'm not broken. And I'm like, great. I love that. I don't think anyone is broken. I speak about it from the sense of there's just some things in our life that need to be integrated. Like as I was healing from the profession as a stripper, I just needed to understand my decisions. I needed to integrate a lot of those experiences. And once I did, I was able to accept myself even more. I was able to love myself even more. I was able to clear out the clutter in some of those centers. So the emotional solar plexus, there could be a lot of emotional dysregulation for someone who has some emotional trauma. And if that happens to be their authority, so the authority is something I alluded to earlier, that's how we make our decisions. So there's something called the emotional authority, which is what I am. But if we have a lot of blocks emotionally, or at one point I was like numb in my life and I didn't understand how to make decisions because I felt numb and I wasn't really tapped into that area, that chakra area, that's really a superpower for me. So when we're breaking this down with other people, or again, when I do this work myself, like on a weekly basis, I am constantly deep diving. I'm really, releasing what needs to be released. Because again, every center has a theme, and reconnecting with the self. And I will say this, I don't want to say a lot of people. Some people have, and this is might be a triggering topic. We're just going to stick on it for a second. Some people have sexual trauma, right? And I have so much compassion for those people, and I was one of them. Again, those were one of the repressed memories that came to me during ayahuasca, but I've made so much peace with it. But from a human design perspective, the Sacral Center is all about passion, creativity, sexuality. It's very similar to the sacral chakra in the traditional chakra system. So sometimes people can feel really disconnected from that center. And when I talked about the 5 different types, the manifesting generators and the generators, they have a defined sacral center. However, if someone has experienced some sexual trauma in their life, or just maybe some experiences that were even awkward, it doesn't have to be trauma, it could just be awkward experiences as well, they might feel disconnected from their superpower, from their sacral center, which is what makes them a generator. It's pretty awesome. It's what makes them a manifesting generator. And it has its own, when someone has a defined sacral, they can have a lot of energy. They can work all day long if they want to. They have stamina, they have strength, they have creativity, they have passion. It's like this center of all this juiciness. And so it's a superpower. And so reconnecting someone to that center, and even people who aren't generators, it's still a healthy thing for them to reconnect to that part of themselves if they've had that kind of trauma that we were just talking about. So there's so many different perspectives that human design provides us that gives us some tools for healing depending on the person's individual needs.
Yeah, like their individual, like you said, like their individual blueprint, kind of how they heal and what puts them in that area. I like how you're talking about how the sacral is really like that area of passion. And I think when people have like that block, or they have that energy where it's like unaligned, it comes from so many places, like especially the past and the representation of your creativity. And it just kind of keeps you like stuck if you can't open that area and open that energy up. And I could see how for somebody, if that was like like you said, their human design type was like centered in that area, and then to have that area blocked, it must really, you could probably just like really see it or really feel it. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah. And also let me just add in one thing I probably got to mention, and this is probably important for someone who's like using this episode to really get familiar with human design. For the generator types, their sacral center is actually how they make decisions, especially if they're a pure generator, and they have no emotional authority like I do. So it's really their gut response. And a lot of times the natural way for generators and manifesting generators to make decisions with yes or no questions is to go, for yes and for no. And we call those the primal sounds. And that's coming from the gut. That's their body decision. That's actually the most natural way for those types, the generator types, to make a decision. And that gets us out of our head. And then that way we don't get caught up in reasoning and logic and, oh, what are the pros? What are the cons? I mean, I have someone a long time ago told me to write out pros and cons for everything I was doing. And I tried that and it just made things so confusing.
Right.
This is obviously before my human design days.
But
like, my mind was
everything I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a great strategy.
No.
So I'd rather use this human design strategy than that pro and con strategy. So anyway, but also, what can cause some distortions in our lives is not using our natural ability to make decisions. We are very intelligent, all of us, every single person on this planet, and we are also very unique. Human design is called the science of differentiation. So what works for Catherine is not going to work for Vanessa. What works for Vanessa is not going to work for someone else. Right. Even if people are the same type, Catherine, do you happen to know your human design type?
I did look it up and they say I'm a generator.
Okay. Oh, cool. Because I've been talking about generators this whole time. Okay. Right. So that's perfect. It's intuitively, sometimes I pick up on these things.
Yeah. That's what it said, generator. Because I was like, okay,
did it
now
say
what?
Pure generator? Yeah. Now what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Next time we'll have to do an episode. I can give you like a live reading or something if you want.
That'd be cool.
I'll give you a private one too. Whatever you want. Whatever floats your boat. Where was I going with that? We were having fun there. What was the last thing I said?
I just like what won't work for like me would work for you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So what I was going to say is the generator. So even if you get all the generators in your life and you put them in the room, they're still going to be so different because there's profile numbers, there's authorities, and then it gets down, there's 64 gates and there's, 30 something channels. So there's a lot. This is a very deep system. Right. I've been studying it for a couple of years. And so obviously I'm definitely not all the way down the rabbit hole, but I know some experts that have been studying it for 10 years and they still tell me that they're still learning new things. And I'm like, whoa, if you're still learning new things about human design, I'm going to be going down this rabbit hole for a while. But yes, even all the generators are also different. And so really diving into that helps us make decisions. Okay, here, I got my point back so I can wrap this up and bring it full circle. Is making decisions especially for the generator, from our gut response. It really does simplify things, because if you think about it, the quality of our life is based on the quality of our decisions. Mm-hmm. And when we have a system and a process, so no matter what decision, whether it's big, whether it's small, whether it's medium size or medium importance, we have a system in place to where we can use that as a process, whether someone invites you on a vacation or you're starting a new business or, I don't know, buying a house or what do you want for lunch? Like it's, using the same process, for the generator, right? So it's really, really important. And I just want to say this is really important about human design. I'll pass you the mic back. No matter what type you are, we all live in this, most of us are in a modern society or in some kind of society, and we were conditioned, right? And conditioning doesn't have to be a bad word, but because we have to start off somewhere, but it is important, especially if you're really wanting to thrive, if you're really wanting to expand and like go deep within self-awareness and self-discovery and just live like this juicy, rich, tasteful, fulfilling life where there's less resistance. Not to say there's not going to be any challenges, because life does bring challenges. It's just a part of it. But if you really want those things, human design can really give you this blueprint on how to have more discovery. And then also decondition. That's what we call it in human design, deconditioning from the conditioning, because a lot of us were taught to be like our mom or be like our parent or our sister or our brother, but be like you, because no one else is you. Yeah. We need you. We need you to be you. So I'll wrap it up there.
Yeah. And I think, some of it is traits that we've learned just over time. Like my kids are always like, oh my gosh, you remind me of grandma now. And I'm like, oh geez, I'm turning into my mother. Like,
wow.
Right? I'm like, Well, I mean, we are the same sun zodiac. We have a lot of similarities.
Let me say something about the grandmother thing. So your charts, there's red lines, there's definitions, right? There's a black definition for the gates and channels, and there's a red definition. The red ones are the ones that you actually inherit from your lineage. And for grandparents and the grandchild, their charts are going to be a lot more similar than the actual parent. It skips a generation. So your chart is probably similar to your grandparents on both sides.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as opposed to your parents. So that's interesting when you said that your kids say something about you doing something like grandma.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think human design is super cool. Like just, listening about it, and it's something new, and I love that so many people, because I remember when you said, did you know what you are a generator or manifestor generator? I remember when I first looked at one of those charts, I was like, OMG, what is this? I was like, it was just like mind blowing. It had like all these numbers and things. And I was like, okay, yeah. It's like, I have no idea what this means.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing that you got centered in it. Do a lot of people use human design for like their healing areas, or do they use it more for their growth periods? With human design?
It depends on who you go to. I mean, I think there's a lot of amazing human design readers out there right now. And it's actually very inspiring, because it means that the demand is there, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a demand and supply thing.
Right.
But there's so many angles. So it really just depends. Like, yes, people use it like kind of like as a life coaching modality, or for growth. And for understanding themselves, and really just how to, the most basic thing I think that someone can benefit, because the main question is like, okay, with all these numbers, just like you said, all these numbers and channels and shapes and colors, like, what does this have to do with me going to work today? And cooking dinner? Like, what does this have to? And it actually is very applicable, right. Because we talked about making decisions, and then also your interactions with people, how to communicate. How do you best communicate if you feel like you're not being heard or seen, or you're in that board meeting and it's hard to speak up, or when you do speak up, like you feel like no one got it, like that didn't land, no one heard me. A lot of this can help with the day-to-day life. So to answer your question, it can help with just interaction, how you interact with the world, how you interact with your coworkers, your loved ones, your spouse, in marriages. This stuff is important. In relationships, I do some relationships readings, and it blows my mind how impactful it is, because people tell me weeks later, and I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. So on every level, for me, even though I do, whatever people need, that they let me know, but I love the healing part of it, because I am an intuitive healer. But I can offer any part of the benefit, whatever intention someone wants, I could offer that to them, but hopefully that answers your question.
So because now I'm like thinking about this, I'm really like, okay, so you said you're a manifestor generator, right?
Manifesting, generator.
Manifesting.
MG, MG for short.
Okay, MG. So you're an MG. And then you also said that that they have like a lot of area related to the gut, the sacral, or like the solar plex, right? So are the generators and MGs, are they like more naturally intuitive? Is it kind of like a process that they are more aligned with, versus maybe somebody who's a projector?
Yeah, well, it depends. So intuition in general can show up in different ways, and intuition in the chart can also happen in different ways. The spleen center is and some people have a splenic authority, whether they could be a projector, they could be a manifestor, and have a splenic authority. But the spleen center is all about intuition and instinct, and they can know things in the moment. But also the pure generator, even if the pure generator doesn't have that spleen center defined, some of them do and some of them don't, just depends. They still have that gut response that we talked about, but it's coming from their sacral. It's not necessarily coming from that intuition center that's also associated with health, survival, fear, which fear can be healthy at times, right? Not running into the middle of the street, that kind of stuff. So it's just intuition in a different way. And just to clarify, not all generators have a defined emotional solar plexus, but the emotional solar plexus that's actually, there is no truth in the now with the emotional solar plexus. Someone who has that as an authority, they really need to wait for clarity. They're not meant to make quick decisions. So for me, even though I'm a manifesting generator, and just for the record, there are some manifesting generators that are not emotionally defined, but I am a manifesting generator that happens to have that emotional definition, that solar plexus defined. So for me, I have to wait for clarity for a lot of my decisions. And for healing, I needed to process my healing over time. I mean, months and months and months, years and years and years, because I have to wait for clarity. Things can't happen that instant for me. And, I used to think something was wrong. I'm like, do I have a disability that I don't know about? Because it would take me so long to process things. I'm like, and I don't mean to like laugh about anyone who does have any kind of disability, but it was just a question and I would have accepted myself, it was just something I just noticed that there was something different about me, but I was also comparing myself to other people. So back to your original question, the intuition can show up in different ways. And even someone who doesn't have the spleen center or a sacral or an emotional authority, they still have a way that they'll know. They still have a way that they'll know what to do.
Yeah. If they have that intuitive response and they're really, that's amazing. Super cool. Just it's so cool and amazing.
It goes deep.
Yeah, it does go deep. It does go deep. Yeah, because it does. Well, tell me, what is it like? This is like one of my favorite questions I ask some of my guests. And so what is it like if this was your reality show and we were following you around with a camera? Tell us, what is a day in a life like with Vanessa, the intuitive coach and guide? Take us on your journey. Take us on your day. Like, how do you start? What do you do?
I love this question. Oh my gosh, no one's ever asked me this before. I love it. So I wake up with a lot of energy in the morning, and I'll just say this: in my chart, I have what we call it definition. I have a lot of definition. I'm a strong personality. Out of the 9 centers, I have 7 of them defined, and I have a lot of channels. So I wake up like ready to go. I'm not the kind of person. I'm not the kind of person that can meditate right away. Like I'm getting into an ice bath. We talked about that earlier, or I'm going to the local lake. Like in the wintertime when the water's freezing, I'm running out the door in my car, trying to get to the lake, or I'm filling up my own tub or cold shower or something. I'm singing. I have a lot of energy. I'm doing, when I get done with that part, a lot of times I'm putting on my favorite songs in my living room and I am just dancing. And for generators, it's important to move that sacral center, move it around, move your hips, twerk, whatever you got to do, salsa dance, dance to get that energy flowing, activate your sacral center. And then from there, I kind of like calm down and I'll do some Kundalini yoga. And then my meditation will come later in the day, like around lunchtime. And then sometimes I do it twice, like lunchtime and then in the evening. And somewhere in there, I'm fitting in a workout, but I'm just working on I work in this business that I have, my healing business as an intuitive healer. I'm just so grateful because it's just been a passion of mine. And for the generators, our life purpose is to find our right work. Like we need to find our right work in life because we need to be satisfied. That's what every generator wants. They want satisfaction. And so with the dancing, with the ice baths or whatever I'm doing on my own, those are things that bring satisfaction to me. So hopefully that gives you a glimpse into my life.
That was so much fun. That was amazing. I felt like, woo, energy when I got
up. You felt it.
Yeah, I felt it. I felt that energy. Well, thank you so much for coming on Chakras and Cuss Words. And please let us know, how can we find you?
Yay. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Catherine. So Instagram, my Instagram handle is sacred_soul and then 4 underscores. So sacred2_soul 4 underscores. So you could find me there.
Awesome. And everything will be in the podcast show notes. So you can click all those easy clickables so you get in touch with Vanessa. And Vanessa, thank you so much. Please comment, like, and share this podcast. It helps move me up the podcast ladder. So everybody have an amazing day. Bye.
Thank you, Catherine.
Bye.